All right, let's go ahead. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. I'm Russell Palmer, and I work on the Galileo staff. I'm the Assistant Director for Galileo Support Services, and I live and work here in the greater Athens, Georgia area, and looking forward to working with you all this afternoon as we take a look at our new Galileo search functionality and features with a focus on K-12 media specialists and teachers. So just a few things before we get started logistically, and then I'll talk a little bit about our process with this. So just to give you some background on some of the things that we've been doing with Galileo. First of all, just logistically, if you would please remain muted during the session. I want to make sure that you have plenty of opportunities to ask questions and make comments. You can feel free to make a comment or ask a question in the chat anytime, and you'll find that chat button up at the top of your screen. There's a little call out button, and if you click on that, you'll be able to type in the chat and see the responses and questions of others as well in that chat window. And I may not see your chat right away, especially if I'm doing live demo, which the session will be primarily today. But do note that I will get back to your question. I'll be sure to address it and dig into it during a time when we're doing Q&A if I don't see it right away when you post it. I will also stop periodically when I just at logical stopping points in the demo process, just to kind of take any questions that you all have and make sure everybody's clear on everything. So do note that you can, at that point, feel free to unbind your microphone and ask your question using your mic if you so desire. And again, we'll make sure that there's plenty of opportunity for that. So those are the major logistics. The final thing is just to say, I'm trying to, I know we've also gotten so used to meetings, and oftentimes we're in meetings with cameras. But if you would, please just keep your camera off during today's session for two reasons. Number one, we want to get a good, clean recording of the session so you can refer back to it and share it with colleagues without your lovely faces popping up, as lovely as they are, I'm sure. But then second of all, just keeps our bandwidth under good control so that we can make sure that we're getting a good flow of information going through the system here. So thank you all for that. And without further ado, I want to maximize the usage of your time and go ahead and get started just by reviewing quickly our agenda and giving you some background on our project. So first of all, we'll talk a little bit about logging into Galileo, and our process has changed for that a little bit. On the K-12 side for right now, users are still primarily using the Galileo password, and that will be that way for some time to come. But we're also starting to future-proof Galileo. Eventually, we will be moving, slowly but surely, our K-12 libraries to a single sign-on option. We're working with the Georgia Department of Education on that right now. And so we hope to be installing that in the months to come. So do note that we're making some changes there, and I'll show you kind of logging in both ways, so you'll know what to expect in the future. But for right now, we'll be logging in via the Galileo password, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll talk about navigation. We've added some new ways to navigate the page, particularly in the K-12 environment. We have added new ways to access different views. In the past, we just had the K-12 views kind of living at the bottom of the screen, and they were just there. And I'm going to stop just for 2 seconds because I got one comment that from someone that they're not hearing me. Mike White, I see that you're on. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. I was worried there for a second. Be a little faster.
Well, you asked right when I was off the screen, trying to.
So Mike White is my colleague. He's here with me today, and he will do the best we can. We have over 300 people that could potentially be in the class today, so we'll do all we can to get you up and running with your audio. You may try logging out and logging back in, and then just looking at your audio settings. But do bear with us. We'll do what we can, but we'll also provide a recording. So if there are technical difficulties that prevent you from being able to hear the content, and Mike, if you would add something to that effect in the chat, we'll make sure that you get a recording. Navigation, we've added some new features and functionality there, and also I mentioned the K-12 views. We've added some different ways to navigate the K-12 views. There used to be just links at the bottom of the page, and now we have made a toggle that's a little bit cleaner to get back and forth between those views. And we've also been able to kind of reclaim that screen space and use it for other things. And we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. We've added a new and different kind of database search. And we've also added a customizable area for Galileo so that at the district level, you can add resources that your school district would like to have in each of the different views. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but we did want to begin to add some ways to customize Galileo so that it works better as a resource for your school system. And hopefully in the future, we'll be doing that and be able to do that for individual schools. That's a while down the road, but we'll talk a little bit more about that when we look at the spotlight. We've created new and different kinds of database lists, and we'll talk about that, and also a list of all the publications in Galileo. We've done a lot of kind of repeating existing functionality, but hopefully improving that functionality. So we've continued to provide database lists and publication lists, and we'll look at those. We've improved our support presence in our support website, and we've also done a lot of updating of our support articles so that when you or your teachers need help, school media specialist teachers need assistance with something, you can begin by looking at the Galileo support articles. And if you don't find the answer that you're looking for there, we've improved our Galileo support request forms so that they are a little bit more functional and give you options for seeking out different types of information. And then we'll talk about Galileo tools and training as well. And I'll show you where you can find recordings of Galileo sessions, Galileo vendor tutorials for resources like our EBSCO resources and for our Britannica resources, which I know is a very popular resource with K5. So I'll be sure that you can see where to go and find tools and training information as well. So that's what we're going to cover. And as I mentioned, we will primarily do this as web demo. As I mentioned, I have a full deck of slides if I need it, but hopefully our web demo will be great and we'll keep right on rolling along. So as I mentioned, I have a little bit of problem seeing the chat, and Mike has been able to join me today. So Mike will, again, I'll offer frequent pauses, and any questions I'll pop into the chat. Mike will be sure to read those off to me so that I can get those answered for you. So I've turned off the slide presentation, and in just a moment, you're going to see my web browser. Bear with me just 1 second. Thank you. And Mike, if you could just let me know when my browser is visible, if I can find it.
Are you sharing yet?
I'm not. It's being really elusive today. That is very strange. It's my calendar. Bear with me. Sorry, folks. Just bear with me. We've done this a million times, and yet today my web browser decides it wants to hide.
You can always just do desktop if you want.
Alt tab works for some things, but if I can't find the actual web browser, well, I can see my browser. I just can't see it to share it. That is so weird. Bear with me. I'm going to pause real quickly and find this and make it work.
There you
There we
go.
go. Jinx. I can see it, Russell.
We don't need any more jinxing this year, young man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's very helpful. Yeah, sorry about that. That was just a weird one because usually it's just right there and ready to share, but for some reason it wasn't showing up in my shareable options. Thank you all for your patience. So here we are on the Galileo main page. And as I mentioned, I will just kind of guide you through all the different new features and functionalities, kind of top to bottom on the page, and again, answer your questions as we go through. Just starting at the top left, this is just the Galileo logo, but it also is your means to always get back to the home page from a navigation perspective. Right now, if I click on it, obviously it's just going to take me back to the login page. But if I'm within Galileo, it'll take me back to the main page where I can begin a new search or other things. And I'll demonstrate that again when we get there. One of the things that we wanted to do in a new Galileo environment was to offer more contextual help, and we're still working on doing more of that. But we took first steps into that arena by adding this What's New area. And we hope to be able to continue to make this flexible, but we made so many different changes to the experience that we wanted people to be able to click on this What's New button and just quickly see what the new features on the login page will do for them. So we've added this institution search, and this will eventually facilitate our single sign-in log on for K-12. We have a lot of our academic libraries are using this already, but the wayfinder, as we call it, this is our Galileo wayfinder functionality, lets me search for my institution and then go to the appropriate login screen for that institution right there on the page. If I click next, it'll tell me, hey, a lot of you are still just using the Galileo password to access. You know it, you can go ahead and log in. So it's just as simple as that. And if I want to stop using that, the What's New feature, I just click on skip and it turns that off and gives me back my main screen here. One of the things that we added is a functionality that just happens to be engaged right now because we're having system maintenance this weekend, is the banner that you see at the top of the page. We've also added a couple of other support pieces that I'll mention later on, but that kind of give you more information about what's going on with Galileo. But just since it's there and it isn't very often there, I wanted to go ahead and point that out. We have made substantial updates to our support pages. I'm going to go through all the fun stuff first, and then I'll close out with talking about support and the Galileo About pages. And then this login button is basically designed, it's a little bit distracting, and we're still working on best functionality and feature with that. But basically, it turns into a log out button so that you can functionally log out of Galileo easier once you have logged in. But basically, right now, it just takes you back to the login page. It'll refresh that page. One of the additional benefits of using the Galileo Wayfinder functionality is it remembers where you've been. So, for example, as a teacher or media specialist, you might be using your K-12 Galileo account some, like while you're working, and then you might decide, well, hey, I'm happen to be in Athens, so I might go to Athens Regional Library System and say, hey, I'm tired of grading all these papers. I want to read a cool book, and I'm going to find something on Overdrive at Athens Regional Library System that I can read. So it lets me easily switch back and forth between the Galileo accounts that are relevant to me. Mine are random because mine are just whatever I've done support for most recently. But I also have a University System Office account that you can see there that it remembers for me. And there's also a toggle here to guide me if I don't want to go through. I can reduce the number of items that I have to go through just by clicking on my school type. K-12 includes private K-12 and public K-12, as well as our charter schools, so that everyone can find their Galileo login page easily when you use this option. Actually, the password that I keep in my head most often is the Henry County Schools login. So I'll just go ahead and show you that it gives me a list of schools to choose from. Again, I have the individual schools, but it is still logging me in at the school system level. We haven't managed yet and probably won't for some time be able to facilitate logging in at the school level, but that is in our future plans. But for now, I would just log in, as the elementary school. But one of the nice things that the Wayfinder also does for me, and I'll show you this, is if I choose an elementary school, we have programmed this behind the scenes so that once I go to that login page for elementary school, which is Henry County Schools, and I type in my password, it's going to route me into the elementary school view by default. I can always change it, but I think that's a pretty awesome functionality that we've added through that Wayfinder that lets us be able to put students in the right place when they first log in, at least in theory. So, but if they decide, well, hey, I'm an elementary school student, or I logged in, or maybe you got multiple siblings at home. I've logged in with, or my little brother logged in with his elementary school account, and now I need to access middle school information. I simply can change views here on the Galileo main page by clicking on Change View. And you see that I have an elementary, middle, high school, and educator view. And I'll talk more about those later. But I just wanted to show you that piece as a means to kind of illustrate that added functionality that we've put in with that Wayfinder that provides kind of an additional benefit with that. And I'm going to actually log out and do some more things on the login page. But again, primarily right now, your students are probably going to know, you and your students are going to know their Galileo password. They have this option to just very quickly and easily log in when they know it by typing in their password and clicking go. So that's what they'll use primarily in order to log in. So just wanted to make that clear. We've also added a bottom bar that has things like, and I'll again cover this in more detail later, but it has our About Galileo pages. And our About pages will talk about our features and functionality that are outside of the Galileo portal, but also still really important for users to be able to find. And I'll cover those in grand detail a little bit later. But let's dig into the fun stuff next. So I'm going to go ahead. I just logged into Austin Road Elementary School, and you see it remembered it. So I can go ahead and click that again and enter my password again. Go ahead and click go. And away I go. And I'm now in with that Galileo elementary view. So here on the elementary view, again, remember this page always takes me home. We haven't changed anything functionally, but I love the work that our design team and our marketing team have done by adding these fun and playful images to the main page. And keeping in the theme with Galileo and exploration, we have our astronauts on various pages. What we have here in the middle of the page is the same Discover search that your students have been using previously in other iterations of Galileo. So it is the same as it ever was. So we wanted to make sure that that functionality was clearly paralleled here in the new Galileo. But we also made sure that the advanced search option, if you want to do an advanced search in the Galileo Discover search, you can do that as well. This still connects to the search, the EBSCO Discover search, which searches most of the Galileo content that you subscribe to. However, we have customized the search for each view so that the view on the search on the Galileo elementary view is searching content that is more appropriate for elementary students. Now that's not perfect. I will be the first to own that, but we've done what we can to create search environments that are a little bit more grade level appropriate. So if I go in here, I'll just do, don't see all the fun searching I do. I'll do fishing and go ahead and click search here on the main page. And you'll see it's just going to route me to results from that EBSCO Discover search, just like it had done previously. But right away, I see ebooks that would appeal, that are coming from that ebook K8 collection from EBSCO that students can access and read right there on the page. There's also video content results and some other things, and the usual limiters that they get over on the left that let them kind of navigate and find what they need. So that is what you'll find there on the main page here at the top. As I go a little bit further down on the Galileo Elementary page, well, let me toggle just to show you and feature another one of our views, so I can show you more completely all of the functionality that we've added across Galileo. I'm going to go ahead and change to the Educator view. And we created the Educator view with teachers and media specialists in mind. We have gotten feedback over the years that there are several ways that teachers and media specialists use Galileo themselves. First of all, there's professional development. You need articles or books to support you in additional classes or research that you're doing. You need to find lesson plans and that type of material to support the curriculum. You are entertaining, and I love talking with them every time I go out into the Galileo community and visit a K-12 school. It's so neat to talk with student teachers who need to be able to kind of continue their research while they're doing their student teaching, and sometimes prepare things for classes. So it's really interesting to be able to have, we got the feedback that people really wanted an educator view. And the educator view in terms of the search functionality is the full search capability. It accesses all of your Galileo resources. And the search obviously doesn't access every single thing, but most things can be searched in the Discover search. And this is where we begin to see some of the other functionalities that we've added. We have our databases by subject and our databases by type page. And you'll also hear me now that we're really into this process, and this has been out since July and we're here in October, I can tell you also some of the things that we've identified that we want to do more work on. So we have our databases by subject pages and our databases by type pages. We are not thrilled with these, and we want to make some improvements to them and make them more relevant. And so we're going to, as part of our second phase of the redesign, which we just started to begin work on, we want to make sure that we address these subjects and types and make them a little bit better and a little bit more functional across the board. But I can get a view of all the different subjects that are listed in Galileo: agriculture, anthropology, and if I wanted to go, for example, to education, if I was looking for education or educator resources, I can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on education here just to see that this gives me a database list. And this was a new functionality. This is, again, we are working at Galileo to be much more nimble now going into the future and make changes constantly to improve Galileo. When we on July 21st, one of the things that we did not do that people have was an across the top of the page so that users could and browse alphabetically. We had created options to browse alphabetically, but people really missed that. We understood that they missed that, and we acted quickly to make sure that functionality was added so that users could take advantage of it. So that is just an example of how we're being what we call iterative development. And you see that when you get into an actual a subject listing, you can kind of parse into different areas of the subject. And you can also generate an A to Z list as a facet here as well. So it will let you kind of see, once you've broken out a list by education, I can even break out my alphabetical list alphabetically down the side as well. So we've given you all the A to Z functionality you could possibly ever want. So just sharing that with you in terms of using the resources by subject.
Hey, Russell.
Yes, go ahead.
There's a question that was asked
Sure.
earlier that's related to what you're showing now. Lori asked, I've been working in the new platform for a while, and the general searches are definitely better, but the search by type isn't good. Used to be able to click primary sources, and actual primary sources for what I was searching would come up. Now just some of the databases that have primary sources. Sort of misleading, and some of my students are panicking.
Okay. That's really good to know, because we can, begin to make, given that specific feedback, that's certainly something we can share as part of our process and get back with you really quickly on that. Let's see. Okay, there's archives and primary sources. I'm just kind of looking at it here. Yeah, so it throws those. I was surprised those American Antiquarian Society periodicals things. Those are I didn't realize K-12 honestly had access to those, to tell you the truth. And then we also need to take this out. No, I see what you're saying right away. We have the civil rights. Duly noted. Okay. Yeah, I see some things that we could improve. And thank you for that excellent feedback. And I will take that to the development group. We meet every Wednesday to review feedback that we're a user pulse check. And I'll share this then, and we'll start to work on that. The content is there. I'll go back and review some other things that may help you get students to that content in the meantime, including the database search. But I appreciate that. That's really good to know that that is not serving your needs right now. And as I mentioned, those are two areas we know that we have more work to do. So thank you so much, and thank you, Mike, for breaking in, because I think that was perfect. So with that in mind, again, the databases by type, we do kind of break them down as best we can, but we certainly can do some refinements there. But what may help is, I'll move on to the next area of the page, is the Galileo databases by subject type or name. And so I can search here also for primary. And just since we use this as an example, and do a search here. And you may, again, we still get those American Antiquarian Society periodicals list, which are, I'm sure, not very useful. So it kind of breaks it out the same, but we get more quickly to the Digital Library of Georgia, at least. And another thing I would advise, and I'll talk a little bit about this in a few minutes when now is a good time, because I can tell you more about the links to resources themselves. Do keep in mind that, while we're working on this, while you're trying to get to a better place with this and get your students to what they need, what you can do is, whether you're using a learning management system or a Google Doc to share with students or what have you, do remember that you have the option to pull resources off the page and add them to your own web page or your own resource list. And what we have to facilitate that is the Galileo Express link. So, for example, if I have users who want to use the Annals of American History, which is primary documents, I can go ahead and capture that express link by clicking on that express link in the database page. Then I can go ahead and copy it. And from there, I could post that on a learning management page. I could send a list of 5 resources to my students via email, or to their parents via email, that I want them to use for a particular assignment. And that can help you to refine that list on your side and get it to your students. I would say also keep in mind, and I'm going to test this out too, as we look at different views, that this is something that may also be helped along by the views, because we haven't necessarily included every resource. We have more refined lists across the views that may be more relevant. But yeah, I'm very interested in working on that and solving that problem. So I'll go ahead and just with that in mind, and change the view to the high school view, and just kind of see what's different there. The high school view is essentially the same as the educator view, but with just more focus in the spotlight area, which I'll talk about in a minute, on high school specific resources that students are used to using for high school research. Let me look just quickly at the archives. It cuts down to 18 resources in the the view. I would say that this is a little bit better and a little bit quicker to the right places for students to do primary research here in the high school view, just to point that out. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think it's a little bit better and a little bit more student appropriate in that high school view, and probably in that middle school view as well. We've done a lot of work in the middle school view area as it relates to primary research, because of the project that we do with the National History Day folks. We do a lot of work with them to make sure that they have those primary resources that they need for their students to complete those projects. So I'm sure the middle school view is even more engaging. So let me pop on out to the homepage again. Don't want to get too out of sorts with tooling around. But while we're in the here, let me just kind of keep my order so I don't forget anything. Before I show you the spotlight and focus in on that, I'll take a second just to show you that there is a list where you can get all databases, and I'll go ahead and click on that. and you see you get that A to Z list of your databases. If you want to post this link on your page, you can, and this will give you a link to your. Mike, did that functionality go in? It looks like it did, for them to capture that link and use it as a permanent link to all their databases.
No, that's a
Not yet.
different link. You need
Okay.
to use
Yeah. That's coming soon though. But you're right, and I'll show that functionality in. So that functionality is coming. Several of you have asked about it, and people have also asked about links to the specific views. That is coming very soon. I expect they will release that next week, if not sooner. I'll talk more about what I mean by that in just a few minutes. Don't want to get too off track. But that does give you a list of all your databases with that A to Z browse. So everything is listed there. And this is view dependent too. So this is going to be different in the high school view versus the scholar view versus the middle school view. The number of databases goes down as we make the listing more age appropriate. And this list gives you all the journals that you have access to. So all the periodicals, newspapers, all the titles that you have access to via Galileo in full text are listed here alphabetically. And I always use my same lame example of Consumer Reports because that's one of the most searched for periodicals in our public libraries, and I can search for that and find that periodical. So if a student ever wants, or you ever want to know if you have access to a specific periodical through Galileo, that list is designed to provide you. And you see, you can click there on Consumer Reports and get that full text access. So that is there. So what I want to do is thank you for the great question previously. I want to take a pause here and ask if there are any questions about what we have covered so far, because I have covered a lot of ground really fast. And I would love it if there are any more great questions or other things that you've observed that we could do a little more work on. So thank you so much for that. I'll take a pause here and do that. And Mike, if you could let me know if any questions come in the chat.
Yeah. Well, I did want to some questions and some comments have come in about
Great.
Sora and which is a product from Overdrive, and that kind of prompted me to just mention in general that if your school district, now it has to be licensed for the whole school district. Any local resources that your district purchases outside of Galileo, whether it be Sora or other resources, those can be added to Galileo, the Galileo database list. So they're all together along with the resources that you get through Galileo. So if you're interested in adding local resources like that, you can submit a ticket, and Russell will show you in a little while how to do that. But just you can submit a ticket, and I'll follow up with you on making sure those local resources are available in Galileo.
Yeah, that's a great segue because I'm going to talk now a little bit about the Spotlight, but also we'll leave that call for questions open. Thank you for sharing that, Mike.
Yeah, there was a question that came in, and I'm not quite sure some of this, but maybe you might, Russell.
Sure.
It's from Lori. She says, just got asked for resources in other languages for ELL to navigate things like Zoom and Galileo Classroom. Found some stuff in YouTube, but would love to have resources like this in Galileo.
Sure. We are fairly limited in that, but I'll be glad to show you what we have. So that's a question that comes up fairly often, and I will address it in a couple different ways. So first of all, there are a few resources that have translate functionality, and I'm not saying that translate functionality is going to be perfect and wonderful, but it is available. But the entire EBSCO, well, the major databases that we have from our database provider EBSCO, we also have Spanish language versions for those, and the same is true of Britannica. And that's a great question because I just talked a little bit about the Galileo databases search, which is the new search that we added here so that you can search through resources. The thing that we added here really most notably is the ability to search by keyword. So if I go in here, I'm in the high school view, And I just simply put in a search for Spanish, and I immediately get my Encyclopedia Moderna, which is Encyclopedia Britannica in Spanish, Escolar Online, medical resources, Fuente. This is Academic Search Premier, which has content with content in Spanish. You see the CDC has Spanish language materials. The whole EBSCOhost suite here available in Spanish. So Spanish is going to be primarily what we have to offer at the moment. And so that is part of that. I'll go back one more time just to go to the main page and show you that also. Let me go ahead and access, trying to think of one that does this. I think Britannica does it. Bear with me. I'll go into Britannica and let me just search for an article really quickly here in Britannica. That was as random as it could be. I have no idea why Einstein flashed to mind. Let me go back to articles here. So we have our article here on Albert Einstein. If I click on the globe, it gives me the option to translate that article into other languages. And again, I'm not saying this functionality is going to be perfect, but it provides a lot of different options here. It uses Google Translate, which you could, in theory, do on your own. But a number of our resources do this. I'm not remembering all of them that do right off the top of mind, but it is something that is available in some of our resources. So I'm hoping that will help a little bit with that issue. Spanish is obviously easier and more in demand. Other languages, not as much, but we can certainly, we've certainly talked with DOE about the need for content in other languages, but we haven't been able to add any, from a budget perspective in recent years. So I hope that is a helpful answer to that question. Any follow-up or additional comments on that?
Lori had a sort of a related question. She says, need more dance and performing arts resources under arts and entertainment. Every year we do a big research project on dance genres, and there isn't much compare and contrast of genres in basic dancer exploration. Google is better right now.
That may not be surprising. We have what we have at the moment, and when it comes to that kind of specialized research, let me go to the educator view and see what's available. Yet again, I know we have one arts database from EBSCO that does have some material on dance. We have the International Bibliography of Theater and Dance. My guess is not nearly all of that is available in full text or at grade level, but that's a function of content. Have you tried, and again, I don't want to focus on content, we're more talking about functionality today. I will say, if you have content questions or you would like to surface content needs with Galileo staff, I'm glad to put you in touch with John Stevens, who's our collection development person, because we have an e-resources committee, and we have multiple K-12 folks, including Kirsten Pilot from one of our private K-12 institutions, and Michelle Easley from Atlanta Fulton schools, who sit on that committee, and any of those people would be more than happy to hear content recommendations. So just to not lose too much focus on where we want to go today, I'm happy to hear about these, and I'll be relaying what I know about this to John. But again, don't hesitate to reach out to me directly after the session. Just drop me a line so that I don't forget, and I'll be glad to put you in touch with John to kind of express those needs and concerns related to content. Anything else, Mike?
Yeah, we did have one. You can wait till later if you want, just because it may mess up the flow of things. But we had a question about how to enter the Galileo password in rather than selecting an institution. To show that again.
Oh, sure. I'm happy to log out and do that. That's no big deal when it comes to flow. Just all you have to do is from that Galileo main page is pop down here to the password and enter it. Click go, and you're all set. Simple as that. Now we can provide them with direct links to their password. I think just if you use the direct link to where you land after you use the wayfinder, right, Mike? Am I right about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, if you want to replace the and I'll show you this in staging as well. Not to get us too far off track, but if you search for your school, and I just recently used Austin Road Elementary, if you capture the link that's there and put it on your website, that will always link you here so that students can skip that intermediary step for now. Eventually, they'll have to do that intermediary step because we'll move to single sign-on. But when we do that, though, we will have a direct link to their single sign-on page. So we will, that's always there. If you just capture that link, and I may have done that too fast, but again, I had chosen Austin Road Elementary School earlier. If I click on that, and you can capture the link at the top of the page, and that will always take you to the login page for Austin Road Elementary. Thank you for that, Mike. I was pretty sure that was correct, but I just wanted to be double sure. Let me go ahead and go back into the login page here. And again, just to show this one more time, because you asked specifically, and I appreciate that, is I'm entering my Galileo password here, clicking go, and I'm in. Simple as that. All right. So that's any other questions? This is great. I love getting these specific questions. They're great, and thank you all for taking the time to type them out and get them in.
Not that I'm seeing, but there's been a lot of back and forth. So I'm just making sure I didn't miss something that was asked. But yeah, you can go ahead and keep going, and I'll let you know if I see something that
much appreciated. So the next feature I want to share with you that we've added is the spotlight area. And what we've created here, as I mentioned earlier, is the opportunity for, at the district level right now, for school systems to add a custom list of resources to their Galileo main page on a per view basis. And what I mean by that is right now I am in the elementary school view for Henry County Schools. And right now we have the defaults in, which are Britannica School Elementary, Explorer for Elementary, Surge Discoverer. But if you would like to, again, at that school district level, and you get an agreement across the board from other elementary level teachers and media specialists, if you want to update these to be different, you can do that. And we're offering routine training on that. But as Mike mentioned earlier, you can also, if you have something that you want to change here, you can also coordinate with your media specialist staff and make a support request, and we can make those changes for you. Just a brief word about training for updating the Spotlight. That's done in our new Galileo admin function, which we've made a lot easier to use. And as Mike mentioned earlier, there are two major things that you can do. You can add resources using a system that we call the Galileo Local Resource Integration. And right now, again, that only works at the district level. But if you have district level resources that you want to add to Galileo and also to the Galileo search, we can help you to do all of that. Again, just reach out to us with a support ticket. And we can also train you just to do the Spotlight feature, or we can train you to do both of those functionalities. Anyway, you can always start those conversations with us, and I'll cover submitting a support ticket in just a few minutes. But we're happy to work with you, and we try to kind of get a group together to do the training. If we need to, we can do it one-on-one, and we also have some recorded trainings on how to do this. But again, this is just our first step into giving our schools an opportunity to customize this. And just to show you what I mean by you can have 6 different resources. You can add up to 6, and these resources don't have to be Galileo resources. If you wanted to highlight your learning management system and put a link to that so students know where to link back to that. If you wanted to put something that featured a specific if you wanted to put a link to your media center page, or to you can't integrate a widget, but if you have, for example, a chat that you wanted to link to, you can put that in there as well. We're not limiting you. There's some restrictions on the amount of text and the kinds of images, but other than that, we've kind of left this wide open for school systems to update as they see fit. So, but just you can kind of carry that forward a little bit further. You see right now I have 6 resources that are elementary specific on the elementary view, and I'll go to the middle school view, where you can see there are 6 very middle school focused resources. Middle Search Plus, Explorer for middle school, the New Georgia Encyclopedia supports Georgia Studies curriculum in 8th grade, I believe. So we wanted to make sure that was there. So we tried to add resources that were most relevant as the defaults, but you can change these again at the district level. So and all this does is kind of provide a nice visual cue and makes it really easy for students to find the databases that they might commonly use, or that they might use to get started with their research, was what we had in mind with this and what our goal was. But you can customize this to be what you at the school district level need it to be. Any questions about that? I know it's kind of a complicated topic, but bottom line is, if you want to get trained to make those changes, we can work with you to do that.
Russell, this is Donita Hinckley.
Hey, Donita.
Hey, do I have the access, or would we be able to do that for the DOE also?
For your DOE Galileo page?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And
okay.
And I will say also, if there are changes that anyone wants to make and you don't have time or inclination to go through the training, submit a support ticket and we can make those changes for you. We'll have to coordinate a little bit on images and description, but other than that, we're happy to do it on your behalf.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's interesting. We did it on the Board of Regents. Just to give you an example, the Board of Regents, one of the most commonly used resources that we make available in our office is the Chronicle of Higher Education, and that was the first. I think it was the first one we updated, wasn't it, Mike? We added that for BOR staff. So it would make sense to do that, for your site too, Danita, if you have something specific that you all like to access a lot. Yep, that's the use case. All right. Well, I think let me make sure that I've gotten. Okay, just the other things that we have the about area. Now, the one thing here too is you can add up to 6 links here, and generally what we've had people add. This is just the main school page, but you could add things here again at the district level. If you had a district library catalog, I know some libraries use Follett Destiny at the district level or something along those lines you wanted to add here, you can add up to 6 links here. Right now, only we can change those. So you can just go ahead and submit a support ticket and we'll be glad to make changes or additions here. Our Galileo news just comes in as a news feed. And then our tools, if you want to add a Galileo search box to your learning management system page or your library web page, you can do that too. And we have the code for that, and it's already customized for your institution, and you just copy that and include it on your web page. Of course, you have to do the surrounding HTML and other things as you can get a web developer to work with you, or if you've got those skills, do it yourself. But that is available to add, and you see what it looks like up at the top. And those search boxes are also on a per view basis. So the search box that I just clicked on here while I'm in the middle school view is the middle school specific search box. So it searches that middle school appropriate content. Another tool that we will be adding, I'm going to see if I can go into staging real quick, Mike. I don't know if I can remember a password for K-12. Wish me luck. No. Strike one. Oh, well, I was going to show a new functionality. I might take a pause in a minute if we have some extra time to do this, but I wanted to show you what we're adding also as a tool. I'll just go ahead and mention this. One of the things that we missed, quite honestly, and did not do in phase 1 of this was create persistent direct links to these different views. So right now, you can't really take this link at the top of the page and put it on your website and link consistently to the middle school page. Very soon, we will be adding under the tools a new list called shareable links. And what that will have is a shareable link so that you can, as I mentioned earlier, put your A to Z list page on your media specialist page or library website. And there will be shareable links to the different views. So if you want to send students or parents, for example, a direct link to one of these views, you can do that. So that is coming very soon. It is in our staging environment now, and I think we'll be sending that into the Galileo production environment very soon. I see some highlighted things, Mike. Any questions? Covering a lot of the highly technical things now.
Well, we had a question about adding a Britannica article to Google Classroom and remote users not being able to access that. And that was something I'm going to follow up with Patricia on. So that's what that back and forth was about.
I appreciate you following up on that. I actually saw that recently myself, so I know it's a problem. I should have mentioned it some time ago, but thank you, Mike, for following up on that. Well, great. Well, the last things I want to show, I'll make sure to get to these, is quickly I want to show you all the support page. And what we've done here is we have made sure that you get all the information you can stand about Galileo and how it works. First of all, you see our system status. This is something that we update, and we are going to have network maintenance this weekend. So there's an article here that gives you all the details about that. And we only add things here. It might be, there may be nothing here for ages, but anytime there's a problem of note, we make sure that we add a system status note so that you can know that. And finally, we have our search support. We have our search support articles are divided out by category here. And then we also, it surfaces our most asked questions. So how I get a Galileo password is right there at the top. But this is very searchable too. So if I was, for example, looking for information on how to access ebooks, I can just search ebooks and find out what devices support downloads for EBSCO ebooks. How do I view EBSCO ebooks on my computer? So it can quickly, how do I integrate Galileo resources into Follett Destiny, which is something you can do. So we wanted to make sure that we had very easy to use, easy to read articles. We spent a lot of time updating these so that they would be in great shape for the new functionalities that we've added. And we will do a lot more going forward to keep those articles up to date. If you don't find an answer you need, for technical issues, we have a support forum. And for other issues, so for example, if you were going to contact Mike about GLRI training or admin training, you can go ahead into that contact support services form. You have an option there to give your full name, your phone number, all the information he would need to contact you back, and just put a description of your need. And you also have the option. One of the things that we've added in the form that wasn't there before, we had an attachment option, but we only had one attachment option, and now we have up to 3 attachments that you can add. I'm losing my voice. Excuse me. And then we go back to the support area. But we also have another thing that we did. Our marketing director, Joy Woodson, was very savvy and said, well, hey, let's have a form that's just for general questions. It's a little bit more of a simpler form. So if you have general questions, I mentioned, if you have questions about content or adding content, again, I'm happy to route those to John, as I mentioned earlier, our collection development person. But you can also fill out this form. And you see that we've added functionality here, marketing, feedback, licensing. When we say marketing, we have marketing materials Joy Woodson maintains for our different vendors. So if you need logos or handouts of various kinds and types, Joy can help you to get those. General feedback, we need more resources in other languages. Content recommendation, could we have this piece of content? So there's lots here for you to choose from as far as just those general contact needs as well. So we updated those forms substantially. The last thing I have to share, and I'm going to make it just right about on time, is our about area. And I mentioned it earlier. If I go into just one of the about areas here, and the footer pretty much always has our about. You can see that there's general information about the Galileo initiative, our programs. So in addition to the Galileo search program, we also have our Affordable Learning Georgia, the Digital Library of Georgia, or under the larger Galileo hat. We have our governance information, including things about our Galileo Steering Committee. Hi, Danita, who's our Galileo Steering Committee member from the Georgia Department of Education, has joined us today and has also done a great job of promoting this session and getting us 300 people. So we have, but Galileo Steering Committee is a committee that meets periodically to make recommendations and review the work that Galileo is doing. And we include, obviously, K-12 representation with that. So if you're ever curious about that, but also policies, if you're ever wondering about password policies or when passwords change, that information is all there under the governance area under policies. And one of the things that I wanted to do better for us, and we're still working to evolve and improve lots of things, but we also have our tools and training. And in the training area, I'll show you both training and statistics. I have updated the training area using a LibGuide to kind of have some short tutorials on accessing the new Galileo. We're going to continue to work to improve our tutorials. To be perfectly honest, these were done to replace some existing tutorials and they were done fast, but they're not bad. I'll pat myself on the back a little bit. And then we have our Galileo training area. So the search training, tutorials, I mentioned vendor tutorials. So if you're looking for tutorials on EBSCO, I think I have, ProQuest databases, the eBook Central, which is a database everyone has access to, Britannica, any of those things that you need general tutorials on, that information is there. Any live online training that's coming up is available and listed here. And then recorded sessions. I've made sure to include every recorded session that we've offered so far for our library so that you can go back and review your session, but other sessions. But I'll also be sending you a direct link to your training session once I process that recording. So we have a lot of good material there for you, and we'll continue to add and update training material there going forward as we offer new and different types of training. So back in the tools and training area, another thing that I think people are not surprisingly not aware of, and if you ever need statistics on your Galileo usage at the school district level, we maintain reports on that for all our school districts on a fiscal year basis. So you can access that broader report right here, but it breaks things down by district. And we also have our usage statistics reporting tool, which is another page it's going to link out to, and you can access data by your institution, and that includes all of our school districts and private K-12 schools that are in Galileo currently. So that is a lot of ground covered in a very short period of time, and I appreciate your patience as we've gotten off on a couple of small tangents, but I think those were well worth pursuing. I'm going to actually come back out of the share now and
Hey, Russell.
with you directly. Yes, sir.
Lori asked, can we get stats for specific schools?
No, not yet. One of the things that will happen when we are able to implement our Open Athens single sign-on solution for our individual schools, not for our school systems, is we'll be able to get some statistics for the first time down to the school level. Now, those will just be access to statistics for the different database platforms, but it's much better than nothing. And hopefully, over time, we want to continue to evolve the ability of individual schools to get more statistics. But that's going to be an ongoing thing that we work toward. So short answer is no, not right now, but hopefully in the not too distant future. Sorry, that one's a kind of a bummer. I hate to give a hard no, but not yet is a better way to put it. Thank you for that. No, I understand. It's something we wanted to do for years. I appreciate your FUI. That's a great word. But not yet. But hopefully something we can continue to work on, and something that is coming. Single sign-on, you'll at least be able to kind of chart access. And there's some cool things that we can do with Open Athens. I don't want to get off on that tangent, but it does have a statistical module that we'll be able to share, and it'll be able to kind of break things down based on a grade level and other things, depending on what we work out with Georgia DOE. Oh, that old SIRS issues researcher coming back. It is not any time in the immediate future. It is on our radar. if additional funding is made available at any point, that is a resource that both I think the DOE and Galileo has wanted to restore for a long time, but to be perfectly frank, the funding just hasn't been there to restore that resource. And I'm sorry because I know how useful it is. I've used it myself, and I know how powerful it can be. Trade out for Discover. Certainly, that can be introduced. Again, I will share that with John Stevens, our collection development librarian, and we're always open to talking through these things and to having conversations about these. Let's see, saw earlier that article links might not work for remote learners, but what about database express links? I'm not sure the context of that question.
I think I might be able to answer
Sure,
that.
please.
So each express links will definitely work for remote learners. They'll prompt for the Galileo password
Right.
remotely, and also ProQuest and EBSCO persistent links they'll have the what we call a proxy prefix added to the link, so it will ask for the Galileo password. There are some vendors, particularly Britannica, where if you go to an article and you save that article link, they don't just the back end of Britannica. It's not set up to add that that prefix onto the URL. So the way to do that is you would, and I'm happy to provide the prefix for any one of you that's interested, is you can manually add that proxy prefix to the link, and then you can add that that updated link to your media center page or whatever. It's just that it's kind of a two-step process. You have to manually add that additional piece to the link to make it available for remote users.
Thank you for that, Mike. And you have that context there. I have a couple of questions about individual databases. Can we add that content? And again, that is, I will refer you to, and let me go ahead and just give you his email address. He'll love it. And I mean that sincerely. I wasn't being sarcastic. John, we love to hear about your content needs because it is really important for us to hear this because, obviously money is tight. Galileo has undergone, like so many of us have this year, a 14% budget cut. And, there's, always opportunities, though. I think part of the discussion somebody mentioned earlier is, what options do we have? Is the existing content servicing us well, or is there content that could serve us better? And is that something that's useful for everyone? That's another consideration because we do have to purchase content as a consortium. So we have to make sure that it works for everyone, not just an individual resource need. So we certainly can look into those things and certainly work with him, work with John on that. But just note that he's a great place to start these conversations. And Michelle Easley and Kirsten Pilot, who participate on our e-resources committee, will certainly work with John to talk through our content needs, K-12 content needs going forward. So I just want you to know your voice is heard and understood, and just want to acknowledge that and give you an opportunity to talk with or to reach out to John Stevens about that. Any other questions? Cool. Well, thank you, Lori. Appreciate everyone attending. We are already past time, and I know it's time to go home, people. So thank you all for the great questions, and keep them coming. If there's something that I gave you John's contact information, and I'll mention to him today. I'll share this chat with him. Several of the content issues that we talked about. Again, we're working on improving. Lori, thank you for your question about the subjects and types. We're working on that. And again, continuous improvement is the name of the game, and we look forward to being responsive here and getting you everything. Well, not getting you everything that you need, but improving the experience and looking at our content carefully. So, thank you all. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.